morning, everybody, and thank you for logging into this session where we're now going to be looking at data and artificial intelligence and how to use them more accurately, more intelligently in your business. We're going to have some tips on how to implement projects and some of the insights and lessons learned from some of the examples that have already been practiced. I'm Leslie Stones. I'm a freelance journalist with Brainstorm magazine, which is a partner in the Altron Technology Day. Now, with me in the studio now, I am delighted to have two of the top brains for Altron integration, Altron systems integration. First of all, we've got Hendrik Blignaut, who is the service line executive for data and applications. And we have Hina Patel, who is the lead for artificial intelligence and advanced analytics. So big data and smart analytics is kind of seen as the magic bullet for successful businesses in the future, allowing you to look at your market share and your customers and analyze what's going on and then tailor your products and your solutions to more accurately fill that gap and fill that need. But gathering masses of data is really quite useless if you don't actually know what you're doing with it. And there is an awful lot of data out there. Some is very useful, some is probably not useful, and we tend to hoard it all. So in this session, Hendrik and Hina are going to give us some practical advice about how to actually start and how to continue the projects and how some of the even fairly small applications can add value and boost the bottom line quite quickly if they're actually thought out carefully and implemented well. So they're going to begin with a presentation about that, and then we'll have possibly 15-20 minutes for questions. So please do get involved at that stage. You can post questions and comments on the Q&A app, and then we can weave those into the conversation, because you're the guys on the front line who actually have to do this stuff. So, are you ready, Hendrik? Should we go?
Born ready.
Let's go. Born ready. Get up there.
Hi guys, welcome to our session. We're going to take you through let me just get the slides right. We're going to take you through our data offerings and approach, why AI. Hina will go through why AI in practice, and then we'll come back to me with some lessons learned through our experience and through the journey we've been on. So just to introduce the business that we've been in. We started this business quite a few years ago in one small portfolio area within Altron, and quite quickly we realized that there's a real need in the market for an end-to-end scalable data services provider. And because we're a systems integrator, we could be technology agnostic, which really gives us an advantage over most organizations out in the market. Firstly, we are scalable. Secondly, we are South African. And then the third thing is we could then pick and choose the right technology partners to partner with. These technology partners gives us a massive footprint with regards to IP, access to hundreds of installations, and the best frameworks in the world that exposes us to leading technologies and leading implementations that we then can bring home to South Africa and implement for our customers locally. So in that regard, we are quite long along our journey to be the end-to-end data solutions provider for South Africa. We've set our sights also now to grow internationally. And currently we have hundreds of minds in the team. And I will say hundreds, it's literally probably 400 or 500 people in the team in South Africa doing really good work for our customers. So just to take you through some of our offerings and our approach. Now this is quite a busy slide, so I'm just going to start on the left of this slide, just to take you through systematically and methodically through the slide. So on the left, we are focusing on the customer. As I said before, we are technology agnostic, and we really need to try and implement a solution that is you are asking for to solve a specific business problem. Now, if you look at the business offerings, that could be increasing your revenue, it could be decreasing your cost, it could be some sort of innovation. Those are the things that we want to understand first and foremost. Only then do we start thinking about what possible solution we can provide to try and help you with that specific challenge. Our services really start with collecting and storing data. We've got an expert teams, very mature business in collecting data, storing it where it's required. There's different ways to store data depending on the use case and frequency and so on of the data. We've got an expert team, one of the best in the country in the data management that looks after the integration of that data, when it needs to be integrated, if it needs to be integrated, and when it needs to be integrated, how you actually apply the proper data governance to that data. Security is extremely important. We have a whole division in Altron that provides end-to-end security for our customers. The classification of that data. All those things is a lot of work, but without that, the data is pretty useless. Rubbish in, rubbish out. If you have the right data in the right way, and quality data to actually make decisions on. Then we move to the analytics part, and this is really where Hina and her team comes in, and they provide everything from reporting all the way through to really complex data science, where we can help customers monetize their data, predictive analytics, and all these kind of very fancy things. And Hina will talk to that in her slides when she comes up. As far as our delivery models are concerned, very flexible. We've got the normal project-based solutions. We've got the managed services, which we are very, very, very good at. We've got lots of good references with that in that regard. And then we're also very, eager to go into revenue sharing kind of models where we believe we can add the value that a customer should be able to realize in a specific initiative. And we're happy to take the shared risk, share revenue in that regard. On the right-hand side is just a snapshot of some of our customers we work with. You can see there's some big brands there. We also have a lot of smaller brands. But as Altron, I think we have something like 14,000 customers. And as a data practice, we have a large set. So we don't have space for all of them. So, but you can see it's across many sectors in the industry. And then at the bottom of that slide, you can see it's vendor agnostic. We apply the right solution to the right customer in the right place. And these are just some of the examples that we've achieved or help our customers to achieve. Hundreds of millions in revenue for campaign management and additional revenue for them year on year. One we're very proud of is the 20 to 30% year on year saving that we've effected to one of our really large customers. When I say large, I mean really large. So 30% saving is significant for them. Enabling our customers to have petabyte scale integration. It's not slideware. It is something that exists in South Africa today, and something we're very proud of. One very significant last point I want to make, though, is the productionization of machine learning models that our team has been able to get down to 1 to 3 days, where the average in the industry is 9 months. That is very significant. So we are proud of a lot of these things. And again, it's a small snapshot of what we have achieved and what we can do, but it gives you an idea of the width and the breadth of our business. So Hina, without further ado, I'm sorry, I've got one more slide. These are some of the technologies partners, guys, that we partner with. You can see most of these guys are leaders in the Magic Quadrant for Gartner. When it comes to cloud, we don't really care which cloud. Every cloud has got a silver lining, and some use cases work better than others, and some really is just up to the customer to tell us which cloud they prefer. So these are very powerful technology companies, as I said before, and it gives us a lot of experience and expertise to apply to our local solutions. Hina, can you come talk to us about why AI?
Thank you.
Hendrik.
Thank you, Hendrik. So I'll be talking about 2 parts, the why AI, why artificial intelligence, and the second part of this is going to be around Altron AI in practice. So I'll start off by telling you a little bit about why there's a strategic and monetary impetus driving AI adoption. As you're aware, AI is a technology that's recognized as strategic and of vital strategic importance to enterprise leaders, as can be seen in terms of this survey by respondents from an MIT Sloan Management Review. So they look at reasons for adopting AI that ranges from, advancing your competitive advantage, you having new business models that can be derived from using AI, and also cost reduction. Some of these are reasons why companies internationally, for example, are investing in AI and adopting AI. Some examples that I'd like to give in terms of market leaders are, for example, Apple is in hyper-personalization. If you talk about Amazon, their entire operations is run in regards to AI enabled. And they're also looking at future ways of delivery through AI, robotics, and drones, and so forth. If you look at Microsoft, they have patented 700 applications in terms of AI. And they have a division dedicated for AI that is about 8,000 engineers. And these engineers are dedicated to working on using AI to benefit an advanced company. So it's about how they've actually put bets in terms of AI future-proofing their organization. If I talk about local companies, from our major banks to telcos, they're all starting to see and realize the value that AI can bring and starting to adopt this. If you talk about the SA, RPA, and AI market, it will see an exponential growth, and it's all accelerated by COVID as well. And I think the main thing here is to say that there's a major drive in adopting AI. If we move from the realm of science fiction to the more real-world applications and adoption of AI, one asks the question, why now? Why is it that AI is growing now? And there are three main areas or reasons why, according to the Economist Intelligence Unit, which is the rising data availability. There are much more sophisticated algorithms. You can see that the increasing processing power, like you have in your smartphones, which is kind of your supercomputer in your hands, enables you to actually then start adopting it. So what use cases is AI really addressing? So you can look at three main aspects around customer analytics, operations, and risk. You can identify using different metrics that you have, in terms of driving revenue. You can reduce cost at an X percentage. You want to avoid risks. And this is applicable across multiple domains and markets. So that's the beauty of AI. It's not necessarily confined to a specific market or domain or vertical. So in terms of AI in practice, or Altron's AI in practice, we wanted to share a little bit about what we are doing as a South African company that has these kind of products and solutions for AI. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Okay, someone changed my slide. Sorry, So I'll talk about our accelerators and assets. So in terms of Altron's own development, we've got it ranging from automation where you have learning bots to image recognizers and quality checkers that talks to detection of defects, to our homegrown AI in a box solution, which is a computer that enables you to kickstart your AI journey, through to what sits on there where we can create added value, for example, with our AI for all, where data scientists can use those pre-configured algorithms to deliver and realize value based on their own outcomes. So we have a whole set of accelerators and assets that can help you kickstart your AI journey. So what is this AI journey that we talk about? The AI journey we take you on is from the robotic process automation aspect, which is really rules-based, right up to your learning systems. And this journey is not an easy one. It is difficult. But we are here to support you in that particular particular journey. As I said, through our assets, together with going through the process and the methodology of value realization through AI. You start with your kind of what outcome you want to achieve. So you want to reduce your cost, you want to increase your revenue, you set those targets, and then we kind of reverse engineer and we identify the data. We look at the kind of extraction of that data into something that your machine can learn and model, and we integrate it into your business as well. So we don't just say it's a POC, it's just something that's outside of it. The whole vision of this is to mainstream AI, which means to practically integrate AI into your business. So I'm going to give you two examples of use cases that we have developed. The one is on revenue, increasing your revenue through churn prediction and arresting of churn. We used our intense road mapping exercise and methodology around machine learning to develop a solution that enabled us to, for our customers, increase their revenue by 1 billion over a 12-month period. So this is one use case that I wanted to talk to you about. The other use case is a manufacturing use case where we looked at how we can optimize and save them costs, and there was a reduction of 2% of their waste. Again, we did this going into the organization, really understanding their business, what their needs are, assessing their data, reviewing this, identifying through our knowledge of whichever models or algorithms is the best to use, implement that and delivered something of value. So those are the two main use cases that I wanted to share with you. So I wanted to tell you why there's an impetus in adopting AI, what we can as Altron provide you with, how we have actually not just taken models, but we've actually implemented them in the real world and showed you the value that it can generate for you and your company. And some of the lessons that we learned through the way, because it's a hard and difficult process, we have a slide to talk about our lessons learned, which I'll then hand over to my colleague Hendrik to go through. Thank you.
Thanks, Hina. All right. Guys, our lessons learned, there's been a few. I'm only 18, and you can see it's taken its toll. It's a tough journey to that we were on, and we've learned a lot of lessons. We thought we'll just give you 3. We don't want to make you cry. Luckily, I can't see you, so I can't see you cry. But you know, the first thing really is subject matter experts. You need someone who knows the data. You need someone who understands the business area that you are going to try and execute the initiative on. Without that, it's going to be a really hard, difficult, disappointing journey for you. You can do it, but you have to learn along the way, and that's not the ideal way of doing it. Data readiness, like any data that you want to make decisions on, it needs to be data that is of good quality. Rubbish in, rubbish out. If you have bad quality data, your results are going to be bad and unreliable. It needs to be data that's relevant to this business case or the use case that you're trying to address. You need to have enough of that data to train the models properly. And you need to have the right data governance applied to that data. Just because it's AI, it's not special. It's still data, and it needs to be treated in the same way as any other data. And then the last one really is alignment of expectations. If you think you're going to find the silver bullet in AI, you might. But I would caution you can also win the lotto. So, you know, be realistic and be realistic but ambitious. But start sensibly. You know, have alignment up front of what you're trying to achieve. You know, discuss it with your peers, with your team. And with people like us, we've got the scars. You know, is it realistic? And when you want to achieve it, how you want to achieve it, all these kinds of things, and create opportunities along the way. You know, fail fast is something that we try and encourage people to do. If once you fail, try and try again. But you know, fail is a good thing. Fail and fail fast. So these are just some of the pitfalls and lessons learned that we had in the AI journey. And we would welcome further discussions with you guys around this. We've got many stories to share. So please reach out after this session if you would like to discuss this further. I'm happy to do so. Back to you, Leslie.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you both very much for those insights and the successful case stories and the honesty. I think there was quite a lot of honesty going on here. Okay. If you've got any questions for our guys here, please do send them through using the app, or questions, comments. We'll bring them into the conversation. But one thing I'd like to ask to start with is, if a company's planning on, well, they're thinking about, they're contemplating doing something with artificial intelligence and analytics, what is the very, very first, most basic, most crucial thing that they should do? Or are there several very crucial things they should do?
I think that there's different companies. You've got major companies that have their infrastructures already set up. You've got smaller companies that might not have all the infrastructure ready. But basically the main thing is around data. If you want to do anything related to AI, data is the air. So it would be useful to have data as a consideration.
And it is crucial. You know, we've even worked with organizations within the IT department, and if you say to them data is crucial, they sort of smile at you and say, well, we're the IT department, of course we can get you the data. And it still is a problem, because it's not just getting the data, it's getting the right data in the right format, on the right platform. We've had instances where we had to load data through CDs onto a system that was secured in a lab environment. It's a long, painful process. So it's not just data; it's really data. It's a tough environment.
Okay. You're making it sound quite difficult, and is it really as difficult and as expensive as it sounds? And is it something that might go, oh my goodness, maybe I'm not even going to bother? I mean, how much of an imperative is this?
Well, if your organization embarks on this journey, then they have to be committed to it, because it is a journey. It's not something you can just do overnight. And if you do embark on it, there are many ways of doing it at a low cost, in a low cost manner, in a way that you are supported through capability, through experience.
Yeah.
So both of these things can actually enable the company to kickstart that journey. For example, I shared with you the AI in a box.
I want to hear more about that. Actually, what is that?
It's a computer, basically, that allows you to do machine learning at a very low cost, and that's something.
And it's good for startups. Not everybody has in their environments these huge environments with GPU nodes and all these kinds of things. So we created this AI in a box to give people a fast start. It's already set up. You can just start loading your data and start, committing AI. But it's, as Hina said, also being difficult. It is only difficult if you don't set your mind right. You have to commit to the right training, the right skills, and understand that it's not a cheat sheet. You still need to apply the right methodologies, and you still need to have the right data. And if you get your mind right with that, you won't be disappointed. And you can start small. You don't have to go, and get 100 people to do things for you. You can start small.
Okay, yeah. And what are some of the easy wins then for starting small that you could say, well, here's a project. If you do this, you're going to be going, wow, we should have done this before.
Yeah. Well, we discussed it yesterday, and you actually mentioned automation.
Yeah. I said, if you have, so automation is one way of making sure that you increase your efficiencies, but also free up time for other more complex tasks. You increase your productivity, so that's one aspect. The other is, if you have some data and you can already create some insights and have low-hanging fruit where you can increase your say, for example, your market share, or you want to understand your customer better in terms of what their buying patterns are, etc. So you could already start small.
So it sounds like it helps to have an actual serious goal, like we want to know who's buying what and when. Something a definite aim like that would help.
A definite, if you get your mind set around a specific goal, that is achievable. Yeah, we get a lot of times people say there's a whole haystack, find the needle. That's much more difficult, right?
Yeah.
So if you can hone in on something, that's right. Yeah.
But what about skills? I mean, I imagine people are quaking at the idea of doing this because maybe they've got enough skills to keep the business running as is, but to suddenly launch into an artificial intelligence project and start analysing the data. Where are the skills going to come from?
So we're quite critical with that, right? I'm a service provider, so there's no place to hide for me. I'm only as good as the services I provide. So people that changes their CVs and call them data scientists has been the norm over the last couple of years, and then all of a sudden a certain skill turns into a data analyst and the CVs just start flowing. Very dangerous, very, very dangerous. And you could lead to a lot of disappointing initiatives, a lot of failed projects. So for us, it was very, very important to invest in specific skills in our organization, starting with Hina and her team, which are true blue data scientists, right? But skills in the market is not readily available. So for us as a service provider, if we have to implement something to a customer, where do we get the skills from? And the customers themselves have the same challenge. So what we do is we obviously employ at a senior level and a mid-level, but then we also to establish a comprehensive network of people. We also invest heavily in internships and graduate programs, where we just, again, I think 3 weeks ago, again took an internship of about, I think, 40 or 50 people in the data space, and taking them through very specific training and all that, and then releasing them into our customers' environments.
So I know you're going to be biased when I ask this then, but so if a company, a medium-sized, large-sized kind of company, they're not going to have the skills in-house probably to do this. So would you actually recommend bringing in a third party to do this project for them and go hand it over?
So definitely. So there are projects where people need a group or a company to do a project for them and then exit again. Obviously we do that well. There are companies that we have some that we do with at the moment that says, look, that's not our core skill. Can we outsource these things to you? And we do that on a managed service or whatever the case may be. But then are others, like smaller ones, where we can do it on a time and material, a project basis, in and out, or we can even do internships and graduates where we actually get those people to work for those organizations after the projects, and they can take over those skills into their organizations.
You look like you're about to add something, Hina, there.
I can. It's just to augment, say that it's really the building of the pipeline, getting the senior requisite people to come and help you to build up that capability, because we need critical skills and critical mass, actually. Not just the fact that you have a handful of people, but you have to build this entire capability and competence to position for future. And as part of this, I think it's important to make sure that the company goals are also taken into consideration. Some companies really do not want to invest in the actual capability, they just want to outsource, as he says. But in other cases, they want us to build that capability, so work with them in tandem.
To upskill their people in-house. Yeah. Okay. But this brings me to the question of security, because there's obviously a lot of talked about security and how online attacks have increased during home working and the COVID period, and if you're handing over your data and your competitive advantage kind of stuff to a third party, isn't that a bit dodgy?
It could be. It could be. I think the news has been in the last couple of months in COVID. There's been a drastic increase in and when I say drastic, 2, 3, 4 times the amounts of cyber attacks in the COVID era. And throughout this pandemic, it's as if everybody is just focusing on stealing other people's data and compromising their data. So it is even more important today. It was important always, but it is even more important today to end-to-end security on your data, be it on your own platform, somebody else's platform. There are many tools and things available, so there's no excuse to compromise your data, and it should never be compromised. We also have things like the POPI Act that's kicked in. that can cause huge fines and consequences for organizations that don't follow those rules and regulations. So again, AI is not an excuse to, and it's similar to what we had in the big data era. It's not an excuse to be sloppy, and it's not a shortcut to fast wins and then have bad results.
Okay, we've got a nice question here. It's sort of two questions in one, really. How could AI help a small business to grow? And the artificial intelligence in a box, I mean, that sounds exciting. One of our viewers is saying that sounds exciting. But how about the cost of implementation, as well as the skills we've already touched on? Is it going to be expensive? You're going to go, well, I'll give you some great market insights, but, it's going to cost you.
You can speak to the SMEs if you want.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, it's how you want to approach it. And again, you are not going to invest in say, R1 million on a return on investment of 100,000, right? So you need to make sense of what you're trying to achieve. If you do not want to buy the infrastructure because you are a really small company, we can rent you some space on that environment. We can do the analytics as a service for you. So there are many ways to counter that barrier to entry into organizations like that. If you take big corporates, there's no doubt there's a need for AI forever and a day. It's going to be a sustainable environment going forward. It needs to be anyway.
That's what I wanted to ask. There is actually a need for this. This isn't a nice to have, a bolt on. This is actually going to become a business imperative, is it?
Leslie, I've got a strong view around that, right? So I'm a data person my whole life. So for me, if people don't pay attention to data in the normal lives, I simply don't understand that, because there are so many golden nuggets in that data that should not be, it's not a win. It should be something you just have. And if you look through the pandemic, people that didn't pay attention to the data before is the guys that's really worse off now, because they were not equipped to deal with the market in the time it was required. So it is critical for people to pay attention to their data.
Okay, and even small companies should be thinking about this. They shouldn't be thinking, well, we're just going to keep toddling along. This is for the big boys to play with.
No, for sure, because it's a competitive advantage. Firstly, secondly, it causes you to be sustainable, increase your profit. If you're going to just, trot along, doing things manually or in our archaic fashion, you're never going to get the speed or scalability that you require. This could be a huge differentiator for you in the market.
If you do it right.
If you do it right.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to be devil's advocate now, because South Africa, we have huge unemployment. We have labour that's not really that expensive. We don't need to automate things, do we, when we can just employ someone to do it cheaply? And so is this almost going to make the digital divide worse, or the employment gap worse, because now robots and artificial intelligence is going to put everyone out of business?
Again, I've got strong views. I'm sorry. So, if I think we are a long way off. If not, I don't know if it will ever happen, right? If you look at the jobs that the fourth industrial revolution is creating for people around the globe, not just in South Africa, it's phenomenal. If you look at the rate of, just in our organization, the rate of new employees we take on year after year after year, and we're a tech company, we're a data company. It's testament to what this does for the economy and for people out there. So it's creating more jobs for me. And if I could fast forward this movie 10 years, I think a lot more companies would make a lot more better quality decisions. They would be much more healthier companies, because they would make the right decisions at the right time, and they would make more profit, and there would be better employment in the organizations everywhere, because people would be able to afford more people to do better jobs in those organizations.
And Hina, I know you've got some strong views on the kind of jobs that are going to be created.
Yes, well, it's similar to what Hendrik has mentioned. It's really about augmenting. So it's not about replacing. So how do you improve the artisans better with augmented reality? How do you enable different jobs in the sector, not just necessarily IT jobs, that you could advance and you can reskill, instead of having an approach of, okay, there is unemployment. There is, and it has been worsened because of COVID. So how do you kind of bring in a technology to augment the human knowledge base? I think that's what's key. And so your human capital strategy in your organizations need to take cognizance of that it is a different world. It is more in the digital realm. How do you actually reskill? How do you upskill? How do you change the way you do investment in skills development?
So it's kind of something that everybody should be thinking of, even if they're not really thinking of let's implement some snazzy new project.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. There's another question about where is the growth in AI coming from, and if you can talk about that specifically in the South African context. Do we have much going on here, or is it still, a few companies here and there?
So I think IDC has given quite an intensive report around the investments going into AI projects. The adoption has been slower than other countries, but you can start seeing that there is much more growth in terms of the kind of more automation RPA side of things, is because a lot of companies at this point in their or with this situation that they're in are looking at how do you save, how do you cut costs, how do you create optimization, how do you create efficiencies. So that's the current accelerator into business.
So is there much going on at the moment, or have things been put on hold then, even the slowish take-up that there already was?
I think we're seeing a lot more revival and resuscitation of investments in AI.
I think the maturity's picked up. Initially everybody got to AI. AI was the flavor of the day, and then people realized, we still need to have good quality data. We still need to have the right data, right format, all those kind of things. And people had to go back and look at their data governance. And now I think that second wave is coming through, where people are ready with the right data to enter into the AI journey.
Okay. And your average company with the IT infrastructure that they have, would they need to do much to overhaul that to bring in these technologies? Is it a few tweaks here and there, or is it here comes some new kit?
I think it really does depend on the company. If it's a large company with very sophisticated data centers, they don't need to do that. It depends on the maturity of it, depends on the data. But usually, like I said, it's not. You need to be in the digital. You have to have your organization on the digital path. Otherwise, you can't adopt AI.
So we rather see people going into the next phase of maturing, where they've had the initial infrastructure also, and we're going to where they need to now refresh that infrastructure or enhance that infrastructure, rather than getting the infrastructure initially up. And we see the maturity happening as people now integrating the infrastructure, where they had little cottage industries of test beds, and now people are maturing and they are looking to integrate and have a more harmonized environment with the AI technologies.
And working with our ecosystem partners also enables us to provide other commercial options, such as not investing in your capex up front. You can do it as a pay-as-you-go kind of managed service, so you don't need to necessarily go in and just start investing in big capital expenditure. So we have different commercial models that we also work together with our partners to enable a cost-effective kickstarting of the AI journey.
So there will be some upfront cost, obviously, but you're fairly confident that it will pay itself back pretty quickly? Very quickly.
Very. If you look at some of the examples we had, I think we have, if you look at the maturing of the machine learning models, just what our team has been able to do in 3 days versus the 9 months in the industry, that's a big one. That's a big differentiator.
That does sound good. So people should get started. I mean, you're talking about failing and failing fast, but is the fear of failing likely to put some people off and make them go, well, we'll just sit back and watch everybody else fail first and then we'll jump on? I mean, is it still at that stage where you have to be fairly brave to do this, or is it just like, chaps, get on with it?
I think companies that's still afraid to fail will not be in business in going forward. I think they've missed the opportunity. If people still have that mindset, it's 1980s, I'm sorry. Your business is in trouble, you just don't know it yet. And the companies that's not just brave enough, but realize that this is a must-do, not a nice-to-do, they will be the guys that are going to consume those other companies.
Oh, that sounds exciting. Okay, so it's kind of move or watch the whole market disappearing
That's right.
over the horizon. You're
Life
not
has
there.
gone past you and you don't know it yet.
Okay. That sounds good, actually. So yeah, okay. So get started now.
That's right.
Yeah, get your courage. Okay.
Get started with Ultron AI.
You have to say that, I don't. Okay, well, excellent. Thank you very much. I enjoyed that session. That's kind of brought it more to life, hasn't it, really? Because it sounds very nebulous, but with the examples, you can see there's some good stuff going on out there. So thank you to you two for sharing your knowledge. Thank you to everybody who logged in and for participating. Thanks a lot. And I know Ultron will be very happy to follow up. If you've got any other questions or problems that you need solving to make sure that your artificial intelligence and your data projects actually do succeed and that you actually don't need to fail at all. Maybe that would be good, huh? Okay, great. So please remember to rate this session on the app and fill in the post-event survey as well. And then you can also go back to the homepage to click on the next session. If you've got time, please stick around for the next session that I'll be hosting in a couple of minutes, where we're going to be looking at how to build a modern workplace. That sounds fairly crucial. So thank you all and goodbye.